So more than likely, if you clicked on this video, you're interested in buying a Chanel Classic flap. In this video, I'm going to talk about all the things that you should consider before buying your first Chanel Classic flap. Let's get started. So buying your first Chanel bag is a very emotional decision. You have to be drawn to a bag that you're paying almost $10,000 for. If you want to buy a logical bag, buy a $100 bag. I think a lot of people are very interested in buying Chanel Classic flaps because they're seeing the price increases. The price of a Chanel Classic flap has gone up over $2,000 ever since the pandemic began. I think that's causing a lot of people to feel like if I don't buy now, I'm going to be priced out. The Chanel Classic flap is a very specific bag. It is a handbag, a shoulder bag. Occasionally you can wear it as a crossbody depending on the size. I meet so many people who buy the bag and they wear it for a year and then they realize, I don't like this style of bag. It's a big mistake to make. In my opinion, the Chanel Classic flap is not an entry-level Chanel bag. It's the Birkin bag of Chanel. If you've never owned a Chanel bag and the first bag you want to jump into is a Chanel Classic flap, I almost say you might want to try another bag. I'm gonna link my video about what bags I think are actually good entry-level Chanel bags here. But once you figure out, is the Chanel Classic flap really the style for you? I think there's a lot of other things about the bag that you really need to consider. Chanel Classic flaps come in a variety of materials, but most people are going to get a leather bag. When I first started learning about Chanel, the number one thing that I always heard of was Caviar versus Lambskin. When you think of Chanel Classic flap, you think of a bag that looks like this in a black leather. This is Caviar. Caviar is also called grained calfskin. When people talk about Caviar versus Lambskin, it's more about durability and looks. Caviar is a more durable material. So if you're planning to wear your Chanel Classic flap every day or a lot of the times, then Caviar is the material that I would recommend. It also has a higher resale value. If you're buying it pre-loved, it's more expensive. The first Chanel bags that I liked were actually lambskin. Lambskin bags are much softer, so that means they're gonna scratch easier. They're just gonna show signs of wear. Things like these quilts may deflate easier. Color-wise, lambskin to me has more vibrant colors, where Caviar is a little bit more muted. Those are things to think about. So you really have to think about how you're gonna use this bag. Is this gonna be like your everyday bag that you just kind of drag around everywhere? I like the look of lambskin. I would probably get a lambskin bag, but I also like Caviar because it is hard wearing. I'm hard on my bags. I will take a $5,000 bag and kick it down the street. Not literally, but the way I wear it. I don't baby bags just because things are meant to be used and worn. And Chanel bags come in a lot of other materials, but I think the majority of people who are interested in Chanel Classic flaps are interested in either lambskin or Caviar. Pick a side, people. In the US, people like Caviar. In places like France, people like lambskin. It's a preference. All of these things are preferences, but you're gonna hear Caviar versus lambskin thrown around, and that's the main thing you have to realize, that talking about the durability and the look of the leather, essentially. If you want a different type of fabric, there's so much to explore, but more than likely, you're gonna get a leather bag. So the next thing you really need to understand before you buy a Chanel Classic flap is single versus double flap. Now, more than likely, you may not even encounter single flaps because single flaps are limited edition special bags. The majority of Chanel Classic flaps that you're gonna encounter in the store are gonna be double flaps. Chanel double flaps are basically a bag within a bag. It's outer flap, and then there's an inner flap. The double flaps help Chanel Classic flaps retain their structure. The bad thing about them is it really diminishes the capacity of what you can put in a Chanel Classic flap. This is the small size. It doesn't hold a bunch. Some of this capacity that you can see from the side is a flap, so it's not usable. The Chanel purists will say this is not technically a Chanel Classic flap. This is actually a black logo half flap. This bag is a single flap. As you see, there's no inner compartment. The good thing about that is the capacity of the bag is the capacity of the bag. The bad thing about this is the single flap is more likely to have structural issues. There's a little bit of bending in the flap. I know for the first year of me having my Chanel education, I was still like,
what's a single flap? What's a double flap? Like what? Why is it important? Why do I care?
More than likely, you're gonna have a double flap. You're not gonna have to worry about it, but it's something you need to know. I think the hardest thing for most people are gonna be the sizes of the Chanel bags. The Chanel Classic flap comes in 4 sizes: the small, medium large, better known as the medium, the jumbo, and the maxi size. As you can see, there's a big difference. Even between the small and the medium, there's a good size difference. The size of the Chanel Classic flap you pick is gonna be really, really personal. It is a dimensional issue, but it's also a preference issue. So I'm 5'6", like a 4'6". I have a friend who's a similar height, and we love totally different size bags. She loves the small Chanel Classic flap. It looks great on her. I myself prefer the medium classic flap. So the smallest Chanel Classic flap that I think looks good on me is the medium size. In terms of the larger bag, I like the maxi, the big body. The hard thing about the sizing is you won't know what size you like until you try it on. So you're gonna have to try on bags. We'll talk about that in a different section though. Next up is hardware. The hardware refers to just either the gold or silver or even rose gold hardware that's on the logo and interwoven with the fabric and the chain. This is another personal preference. I prefer the 24 karat gold plated hardware. 24 karat gold plating is only present in vintage bags that you're gonna find at pre-owned stores. If you're looking for a bag in the store, more than likely you're gonna be dealing with a champagne gold, a gold tone, or silver. Chanel has been coming out with rose gold bags, but they're not plentiful. These bags are all 24 karat gold plated, so the gold is gonna be much more yellow. The bags in the store are gonna be of a much lighter gold. So if that's your preference, then you're fine. If you prefer this, you are more than likely gonna have to get a vintage bag. Chanel classic flaps come in a variety of colors. They have what are called classic colors and seasonal colors. So the classic Chanel colors, the black of course, and the beige clear, they're gonna be available every season. So in addition to those classic colors, they come in seasonal colors. Seasonal colors means it happens on occasion. For example, I believe the seasonal color is from like 1996. Chanel may have done this color one other time since then, or they've never done it again. The good thing about seasonal colors is if you love a color, you should buy it. The bad thing about seasonal colors is if you see it and you love it, you may never see it again. If you're in the market for a particular color Chanel bag and it's not in that season, you more than likely are gonna have to get that bag pre-loved. Another thing you have to consider with color when it comes to Chanel bags are the leather. So this bag is Caviar and this is a very light pink. But let's say you wanted a very, very bright, vibrant bubblegum pink. The Caviar can do that, but it's just not gonna be as vibrant. I've definitely seen red Chanel Caviar bags, but they're not gonna be this bright and vibrant. If you want something this bright and vibrant red, you're gonna have to get a lambskin bag. This fabric is very, very durable and strong. So it's not gonna absorb it the way that a lambskin bag, which is softer and more malleable, would. If you want a Chanel classic flap in black, there's at least a 6-month waiting list or more depending on the store you're going in. Most people, if they want their first Chanel classic flap, it's gonna be in black. Buying a Chanel classic flap in the store is not as easy as most people think. One does not just walk into Chanel and say, I want a Chanel classic flap and walk out with one. With the pandemic, we're used to buying everything online. You can buy cars online and have them delivered to your house. You can't buy a Chanel classic flap and have it delivered to your house. Not gonna happen. You can go to the Chanel website, look up a Chanel classic flap in the size you want. When you click on the button, it's gonna tell you, call customer service. When you call customer service is like, would you like us to make you an appointment at the boutique? In order to buy a brand new classic flap, you must go into a store. I know a lot of people are intimidated about going into luxury stores. If this Chanel classic flap is your first bag, then I would more than likely recommend trying to buy one in store, just because you know that you're getting an authentic Chanel piece. It's more work to go into the store, put yourself on the waiting list, wait, but you know you're getting the bag that you want, especially if you want a black bag. If you want a color that only is available in vintage styles, or if you want like 24 karat gold hardware, you're gonna have to get a pre-loved bag. Buying pre-loved bags is like going on a treasure hunt. First, you have to figure out what you want. Then you have to find the bag in the condition you want. There are a ton of vintage pre-owned Chanel bags on a site like, let's say, The Real Real. They may not be in the condition you want. As you know, everybody treats bags differently. So some bags are gonna be in excellent condition and some bags are gonna be in fair condition. The price will vary about that. The next thing you have to consider when you're buying pre-loved, is this bag authentic? Even if it's somebody that guarantees that it's authentic, there's no 100% guarantee. If you're buying from a Chanel boutique or an authorized retailer, that's the only way you're gonna know that you have an authentic Chanel bag. There's no other way. And if this is your first Chanel bag, you don't really know how to authenticate a bag. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong in that situation. I don't recommend it. Take that advice as you will. It's definitely an option. Buying a Chanel classic flap pre-owned is more work. You are able to purchase the bag online. You're more than likely not gonna see that bag in person until you get the bag, unless the reseller has a brick and mortar store like a Real Real. And a lot of these retailers either are final sale or have very, very short return windows. So you have to be on it. You have to figure out how to authenticate the bag. If the condition of the bag isn't at the level at which you want it to be, you're gonna have to return it quickly. Buying a Chanel classic flap is gonna be work. Either you're going to Chanel boutique or you're going to a reseller. It's not easy. Nobody tells you this. A lot of websites have things that kind of will estimate what the bag will look like on you. I love those things. They do give you an approximate size. For Chanel classic flaps, I really do think you need to try the bags on, because in addition to the size of the bag, you also have the drop, which is like the length of the strap. Certain bags, you're gonna like where it hits you better. It's really hard to try on Chanel classic flaps in the store. Before I bought my first Chanel bag, I was able to actually try on a bunch of bags, try on different sizes. Hopefully, if you are interested in buying a Chanel classic flap, you know somebody with one. If you don't know anybody with a Chanel classic flap, then you need to try to get your hands on one. I live in Chicago, so I can go to pre-owned stores like The Real Real and try on different sizes. It may not be the exact bag, but it allows me to try that on. Worst case, if it comes to it, I definitely know people who have bought bags at, let's say, a Fashion File, which has a better return policy, try on a specific size, return it within that narrow time window if the size doesn't work. But trying on a lot of Chanel bags, sizes especially, is really, really important. Chanel Classic Flaps, they're heavier than what you think they're going to be. This bag looks like it's very, very lightweight. Compared to other shoulder bags that are this size, I actually think it's a little bit heavier. And then when you put things in it, it's gonna be a little bit more heavier than you anticipate. This is a leather bag. It's a double flap, so that means it has the inner compartment, so there's more leather on top of it. You put something inside of it, it's gonna be heavier still. When you carry a tote, you realize, okay, the tote bag is gonna be heavy, but you don't realize that a Chanel bag is gonna be heavy. But if you need to borrow or beg to use somebody else's Chanel Classic Flap to see if it's the right bag for you, I say do it, because the medium large Chanel Classic Flap currently is $8,800 in brand new in the store. Tax in Chicago is 10.25%. If I were to buy this bag brand new in the store, by the time I add tax, that's $10,000. No one wants to spend $10,000 on a bag and realize, I hate the size, I hate the color, I hate whatever. Color doesn't go with anything. There's a lot of variables. Try this bag on. If you're intimidated to go in the store and try on a Chanel Classic Flap, you may not want to buy one because you're not there yet. If you don't want to ask your friend who has a Chanel Classic Flap to try on her bag, you may not be there yet. This is something more for any luxury bag, but especially for Chanel bags. Make sure you keep all receipts, boxes, cards that come with the bag. Now, I know most of us are going to be like, oh, I'm never going to sell this bag, but you never know. Who you are is going to change. Your style changes. You may love the Chanel Classic Flap for 5 years, 10 years. You may want to sell it. When it comes time to sell it, you want to prove that I bought it from a Chanel boutique. Also, any cards that prove authenticity, keep those. Do not be the person that all the stuff that comes with your Chanel bag, you just throw away. That's not what you do. Most people know better, but I'm just letting you know, don't do it. Even if you throw away the bag that Chanel gives you, that's fine, but don't throw away that box. Consolidate it, use it for something else. Use it to store papers, I don't care. Keep that box. Those are all the things that I think people should know before you buy a Chanel Classic Flap. Buying any luxury bag is an emotional decision. A Chanel Classic Flap has a lot of variations. It's a lot to take in. There's a lot of things you want to know in order to ensure that you're buying the bag that you want. Hopefully this was helpful in helping you make a more informed decision about buying a Chanel Classic Flap. I said before that I don't think a Chanel Classic Flap is a good entry-level bag. If you're interested in what I think is a good entry-level Chanel bag, I'm gonna link that video here. All right. See you later. Bye.